Tomorrow's day one of Parliament. Leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Arun Jaitley, now joins me this evening on the News Hour. Mr. Jaitley, it now appears that the government was in possession of the CAG report on the 11th of May, which has come to light as a result of this note of the President's office, which was a receipt on the 21st of May. Now that it is public that the government had the report but did not acknowledge receipt of the report, I first want your reactions on this new revelation.
Well, I think this is a complete fraud on the Indian Parliament. Parliament has complete control over government spending, whether monies are lost in governmental transactions and how improvements can be made to that. That is precisely why the Public Accounts Committee has been constituted. A report of the CAG, when it is submitted to the government in its final form, it is incumbent before the government to lay it on the table of the House. The moment it is laid on the table of the House, it is automatically transmitted to the Public Accounts Committee, which goes into the matter, and thereafter, if the need be, the report of the PAC can be discussed in the House if it is necessary. Now, when the House is in session, the only role of the government in this matter is, it's a ministerial role, a clerical role, that a report is received, a report has to be tabled. Government comments on the report are not necessary. It's only before the Public Accounts Committee that the concerned departments give their comments.
Yes.
But to prevent tabling of the report, because tabling would necessarily entail making public the comments of the contents of the report itself, I think is to deprive the Parliament within reasonable time from knowing what the Comptroller and Auditor General has done. This is something which is highly impermissible, and if the facts which you are mentioning, that on the 11th of May, the report was submitted, the Parliament continued till the 22nd of May, and we were all being told that the news reports in this regard are only with regard to a draft report and not the final report. I think this is depriving the public of the right to knowledge about the contents of the report and depriving the Parliament, as also the Public Accounts Committee, during the intervening period from examining the comments of the report.
Can the government put up a defense that it is not obliged to table the report in Parliament and that the timing of the tabling, we've got the report, but when we table it is our business, that it's our prerogative? Can Mr. Jaitley, can the government argue that?
Absolutely not, because the only role of the government, when it receives the report, is to have it printed and tabled before the House. The role of the government is not to give comments on the report or decide a response on the report. Therefore, presenting and parliamentary papers are printed overnight. Therefore, the government has to present it within reasonable time, and reasonable time in this context would only be as much time as is required in printing the report, because the same has to be simultaneously made public when it is tabled on the floor of the House. Therefore, if it is done beyond reasonable time, I think the government has probably some collateral motive in preventing a public discussion or a public knowledge about the contents of the report, and that is the only reason why it is not tabling it before the House.
The other argument to insulate the higher echelons of the government can be sheer ignorance. Do you think it is possible that senior members of the government, senior ministers, the coal minister or the prime minister were misled that the CAG had actually not presented the report, that they didn't know, or that some bureaucrat told them that the CAG report had not been submitted?
Well, I cannot comment on that. And if somebody has withheld it from the relevant offices of the executive, which is bound to place it before the House, then this person must be taken to task for it, because it is preventing Parliament and its committee from discharging a function. Now, if you hinder the functioning of Parliament or its committees by undue delay, this itself is a very serious charge against the government. And therefore, if some functionary in any office of the government is responsible for doing this, he must be made accountable for the same.
Arun Jaitley, that clarifies a lot. Thank you very much for joining me on News Hour tonight.